Maya adjusted the tiny pink blanket wrapped around her baby, her heart pounding as she stood outside Le Chateau. The restaurant's golden lights shimmered through the glass doors, reflecting her nervous expression. She took a deep breath, whispering to herself, "Greater than, it's just dinner. You can do this." Her friend Sarah had insisted she go. "He's a good man, Maya, successful, yes, but he's kind. You deserve to meet someone who'll see you, not your past." But as Maya looked down at the stroller, where little Lily was cooing softly, she wasn't so sure. This was her first date in over 2 years, and she was showing up with a baby. Not exactly the picture of romance. Her babysitter had cancelled an hour before. For a moment, she thought about calling it off, but something in her heart whispered that maybe, just maybe, she should take a chance. She pushed the stroller through the doors. Instantly, the sound of soft piano music, clinking glasses, and low laughter filled the air. Heads turned, conversations paused, a waitress raised an eyebrow. The maitre d', a tall man with a too-perfect bow tie, gave a polite but tight smile. "Good evening, ma'am. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," Maya said, straightening her shoulders. "Under Maya Collins." He checked the list, then hesitated. "Ah, table for 2. His eyes darted to the stroller. "And one small guest." Maya forced a smile. "She doesn't eat much." A few people nearby chuckled quietly. A woman in diamonds whispered to her date, "Can you imagine bringing a baby here?" Maya's cheeks flamed. She wanted to turn and leave right then, but before she could, the maitre d' gestured her toward a quiet corner table. She settled in, trying to distract Lily with a toy. Her nerves danced with every passing minute. Then the door opened, and the entire restaurant seemed to take notice. Ethan Cross had arrived, the CEO of Cross Tech Industries. He carried an air of quiet command. Tall, broad-shouldered, and impeccably dressed, his presence alone drew attention. But there was something else, something softer in his eyes, as if beneath all the success was a man who'd forgotten how to smile. When his gaze landed on her, and the stroller, he froze. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he smiled politely and approached. "Maya Collins." She nodded, nervously tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "That's me. And, this is Lily." He looked down at the baby, who blinked up at him with wide blue eyes. "Lily," he repeated, voice softer now. "Beautiful name." I'm so sorry," Maya blurted. "My babysitter cancelled at the last minute. I didn't want to stand you up, but I understand if you'd rather reschedule." Before he could answer, laughter rippled from the next table. "Seriously, who brings a baby on a blind date?" One woman whispered. "She must be desperate." Maya's hands clenched in her lap. Her throat tightened. "I think I should go," she murmured, fumbling for her bag. But Ethan's calm, low voice stopped her. "Greater than, sit down, Maya. Please." She froze. He stood and moved around the table, crouching beside the stroller. The restaurant quieted. Even the waiter stopped mid-step. Ethan looked down at Lily, who blinked curiously at him. Then, with surprising gentleness, he smiled. "Hey there, little one." Lily giggled, a soft, musical sound that melted the tension in the air. Ethan chuckled quietly, extending his hand. The baby reached out, wrapping her tiny fingers around his. Something shifted in his expression, something raw and vulnerable. He hadn't realized how long it had been since he'd felt something this pure. For years, his life had been meetings, deadlines, and silence. His penthouse was filled with luxury, but empty of warmth. Now, a tiny stranger had brought light into it with a single giggle. He carefully lifted Lily into his arms, his movements surprisingly natural. The sight made the entire restaurant still. Maya's lips parted in disbelief. You don't mind." Ethan looked up, a small, genuine smile breaking through his usual composed mask. "Greater than, mind. No, I think she just made this the best blind date I've ever had." The whispering stopped, the stares softened, and as Ethan held Lily close, her small hand resting over his heart, Maya saw something she hadn't expected. Not pity, not judgment, but understanding. Dinner turned out nothing like Maya imagined. After Ethan held Lily, the atmosphere shifted. The judgmental stares faded, and the whispers stopped. He didn't just tolerate her daughter, he adored her. He fed Lily tiny bits of mashed potatoes from his plate, made funny faces that sent her into fits of giggles, and even dabbed her chin with a napkin like a natural father. Maya sat across the table, caught between disbelief and quiet admiration. No man had ever looked at her child with such warmth before, not even her late husband. As the waiter refilled their glasses, Ethan leaned back with a soft smile. "Greater than, this isn't quite the dinner I expected," he said, "but I think it's better than any I've had in years." Maya smiled shyly. "You're being kind." He shook his head. "No, I'm being honest. Most women I meet only talk about work, money, or reputation. But you're different. You showed up even when everything went wrong. That says a lot." Maya looked down at her hands, feeling her heart flutter in a way it hadn't in a long time. "Different isn't always good." He met her eyes, voice steady. "Greater than, it is when it's real." Her breath caught. For a moment, the world around them blurred. Lily babbled softly between them, her tiny hand resting on Ethan's wrist, grounding them both. When the check came, Ethan waved it away before she could protest. "Greater than, dinner's on me. Consider it a thank you for letting me meet the most charming dinner companion I've ever had." Maya laughed. "You mean Lily?" Ethan smirked. "I was talking about you. But yes, she's quite the charmer too." Outside, the night air was crisp and smelled faintly of rain. The city glowed with 1,000 lights, and the soft sound of traffic filled the silence between them as Ethan walked beside her. "Do you live far?" he asked. "Just a few blocks away. I didn't want to drive with Lily. Then I'll walk you both home." Maya hesitated. "You don't have to. I want to." They walked slowly, his hands tucked in his coat pockets, hers gripping the stroller handle. He asked about her life, her work at the small cafe, and how she managed everything alone. She told him the truth. About losing her husband in a car accident 2 years ago. About the long nights working double shifts, the exhaustion, the guilt of not being enough. Ethan listened without interrupting. His usual CEO composure softened into something deeply human. When she finished, there was no pity in his eyes, just quiet admiration. "Greater than, you're stronger than you think," he said softly. "Most people would have given up. You didn't." Maya swallowed hard, touched by his sincerity. "I didn't have a choice. Lily depends on me." He looked down at the stroller and smiled faintly. "She's lucky to have you." A light rain began to fall, and he instinctively took off his jacket, draping it over her shoulders. The gesture was simple, but it made her heart ache in the sweetest way. When they reached her apartment building, she turned to face him. "Thank you, Ethan, for tonight. I was so sure it would be a disaster." He smiled softly. "It was perfect." Lily yawned from the stroller, tiny arms stretching. Without thinking, Ethan knelt and lifted her once more. The baby rested her head on his shoulder, completely at peace. Something inside him cracked open. He hadn't held anyone like this since his younger sister's child years ago. Work had consumed him since then. Success, profit, status. But holding Lily, feeling her small heartbeat against his chest, reminded him what he'd lost: connection. Maya watched, her eyes misting. "She likes you," she whispered. Ethan looked up, his voice quiet but full of emotion. "Greater than, maybe because she knows I needed her." They stood there in silence, the CEO who had everything but love, and the mother who had nothing but love to give. When he handed Lily back, his fingers brushed Maya's, sending a spark neither could ignore. "Can I see you again?" he asked, his voice low, almost hesitant. Maya's lips curved into a trembling smile. "We'd like that," he smiled. Truly smiled this time, the kind that reached his eyes. "Greater than, then it's a date. No fancy restaurant next time. Just you, me, and Lily." As he walked away into the misty night, Maya stood on the steps, holding her daughter close. For the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen, wanted. Inside the stroller, Lily gurgled softly, as if she too knew that something had changed tonight. Because sometimes, love doesn't come when you plan it. Sometimes, it comes wrapped in a pink blanket, with tiny fingers that show two lonely hearts how to start again. For the first time in years, she felt seen. And for the first time in a long, lonely while, Ethan Cross felt something like home.